Welcome to my channel. Today's story will touch your heart and remind you that no secret stays hidden forever. It was a cold evening in a small town in Virginia. Inside a dimly lit house on Willow Street, an elderly woman named Margaret Gray lay on her bed, struggling to breathe. Her once bright eyes were fading, her voice barely a whisper. Beside her sat her only daughter, Emily, quietly holding her mother's frail hand. For years they had lived together, yet love between them had always been complicated. Emily felt sorrow but also distance, as if something deep had always been missing. The room was silent except for the ticking of an old wall clock. Margaret turned her head slowly towards her daughter and said, "Emily, there's something I must tell you before I go." Emily leaned in, confused. Her mother's trembling voice continued, "You have always wondered why I kept you away from the people, why I never let you see your father." Tears rolled down her pale cheeks. "Your father wasn't who I told you he was. He wasn't a sailor, he was a preacher, a kind man who helped the poor." Emily's eyes widened. "Then why did you lie to me?" Margaret whispered, "Because I ruined his life." Margaret's breath grew uneven. "When I was young," she said, "I was proud, selfish. I wanted money, status, attention. Your father refused to take bribes from powerful men in town. So they turned to me. I signed papers against him, false papers that destroyed his reputation." Emily was speechless. "I watched him lose everything," Margaret continued, "and I said nothing. I married another man for his wealth, and your father left town heartbroken." A long silence filled the room. The ticking clock felt louder now. Margaret closed her eyes and whispered, "I thought time would bury my son, but it followed me every night." That night, a storm hit the small town. The rain lashed against the windows and thunder echoed through the dark sky. Emily sat by her mother's bedside, unable to sleep. Suddenly, she heard a faint knocking sound, not from the door but from the hallway. "Who is there?" she whispered. No answer. She stood trembling and walked slowly towards the sound. The air felt heavy and every step seemed colder than the last. As she reached the hallway, the lights flickered, and for a split second, she saw a shadow standing near the old family portrait. The portrait showed a young man in the black coat, the same man Margaret once called a stranger. Emily felt her heart beat quicken. When she looked again, the shadow was gone, but the glass over the portrait had cracked right across the man's face. She rushed back to her mother's room, terrified. "Mom, I saw something. I think it was him." Margaret opened her eyes weakly. "He's come. He always does." "What do you mean?" Emily cried. Margaret whispered, "Every night he visited me, not to harm me but to remind me what I did. I begged for forgiveness, but guilt is a prison only the soul can break." The storm grew louder. Lightning flashed through the window, lightening Margaret's pale face. She gripped Emily's hand tightly. "Promise me, Emily," she said. "Never hide the truth. No lie stays buried forever. God's justice always finds us, even in silence." Emily sobbed, holding her mother's close, but before she could say another word, Margaret took her last breath. Her hand fell still. The old clock stopped ticking, and in the silence that followed, Emily heard one last whisper, "I forgive you." Days later, while clearing her mother's room, Emily found a sealed envelope hidden inside the Bible on her nightstand. On the cover it said, "To the one I wronged." Inside was a confession letter and a small photograph of the man from the portrait. Pastor Jonathan Wells. The letter detailed everything: the betrayal, the lies, the guilt. At the end, her mother had written, "If my soul finds peace, let his name be cleared. Tell the truth, I never could." Emily felt tears, but when she knew what she had to do. Months later, Emily traveled to a small church on the outskirts of the Richmond. There she found a faded grave marked "Jonathan Wells, a man of faith." She knelt before it and placed the letter down gently. "I'm sorry for what she did," she whispered, "and I promise the world will know your worth." As she stood, a cool breeze swept through the cemetery, the clouds parted, and sunlight touched her face. For the first time in the years, Emily smiled. Somewhere deep in her heart, she felt peace, not because the pain was gone, but because the truth had finally been set free. No sin stays hidden forever. Truth has a way of finding light, no matter how deep we bury it. Subscribe for more emotional and life-changing stories.